And with the push of the start button, we have Phantasy Star, End of the Millennium on the SEGA Nomad. And this is a pretty souped up, if you're like, wow, that's a pretty crisp screen for your Nomad. Well, there's reason for that. This Nomad is just about as leveled up as you could possibly get, and I'll show you how I did it coming up. Spoiler alert, I didn't do it. It was a friend of mine. But I'll tell you where it was done. How about that? Because why not? You got a SEGA Nomad laying around, you may as well maximize it with today's technology. Well, how are you feeling? You got John Riggs here. I do love me some Sega Genesis, and the Nomad was such a cool device for the time. You probably already know about the Nomad, but you know, it came out late in the life of the Sega Genesis, and I loved the fact that it played Sega Genesis games. I mean, it's literally the same games that you would pop in your Sega Genesis, you could pop it in your Sega Nomad. I wish Nintendo had something like that. Well, they had the Game Boy. Well, and not to be outdone, Sega did have the Game Gear, which it was in color, sounded okay, but again, like the Game Boy, there was a lot of ghosting, like the blurring effect when you're going too fast. You know, honestly, I didn't just care for it that much. It also used up 6 AA batteries, which was a lot of batteries, and this was during a time when I gotta remind my kids, you couldn't just charge it, you know, you have to keep buying batteries. And 6 batteries for like, was it 6 hours, 4 hours of game use, something like that? Yeah, not very optimal, although you could play it while you were plugged in. And again, if you had a Game Gear, you would need to buy Game Gear games. This was perfect because it was the same games as you would play in your Sega Genesis, Model 1, Model 2, Model 3, Model whatever. You could also play it on the go. And again, I mean, all the game saves were in the battery on this thing, so you could like, you know, play it at home, and then if you're going to grandma's house or whatever, bring your Genesis just like that. And like the Game Gear, you could play it plugged in too. There was a battery pack on the back. You could load it up with batteries if you wanted. The batteries, like the Game Gear, didn't make it last too long, but it was an option. More often than not, I would just play it plugged in sitting on the couch or something like that. The fact that you could play the same games on TV on the go was such a brilliant idea. I mean, TurboGrafx-16 had that capability if you had the Turbo Express, which was a lot of money. The Turbo Express. Yeah, here's one. I love me the TurboGrafx-16. I had one back in the day, even before Bonk's Adventure. That's how dedicated I was. And the same game, I happen to have blazing lasers in here. Didn't have to be blazing lasers, it could be something else. Oh, classic, Pac-Land. So, Pac-Land, the same Pac-Land you would play at home on your TurboGrafx-16, play it on the go with something like this. And you just pop right in there. There you go, and you'd play you some Pac-Land. This one also took a bunch of batteries. You could also plug it in. I have a plug-in, I'm not gonna worry about that. But yes, I have one of these too. But this video isn't about the Turbo Express, or blazing lasers, or Pac-Land. Why is it pink? It should have been yellow with black text, but still. This is all about the SEGA Nomad. D button, a little weird. It's, you know, it's fine, but, you know, it has that weird rounded where you put your thumb. But it has the 6 buttons that I like, although they're a little bit more oblong than I'd like them to be. I like the 6 buttons like Street Fighter 2 style. So thanks to today's technology, when you have something like this, you can maximize it, just like you can do it with your Game Boy. You see people do like the backlight screen upgrades and all that too. Game Gear as well, and even the TurboGrafx, the Turbo Express. There's a lot you can upgrade with this to make it, you know, a little bit more powerful. And I don't mean more powerful in a home improvement kind of way. I mean more powerful in it can do more than just what you could have done by default out of the box. Why wouldn't you want to soup it up? I mean, you may as well, right? Well, this Turbo Express has a lot going on for itself, and it is in thanks to new Meddle Repairs. Not metal, Meddle, M-E-D-D-L-E, new Meddle Repairs. You can find them on Twitter, you can find them on Facebook, I'll leave links to both. I actually feel kind of bad about this. I handed this off at the Cleveland Gaming Expo last September, so it's been almost a full year of having this. I'm just now doing a video on it? That's not fair, but it's okay. So, here's what this thing can do now. First of all, they recapped it, which is what you want to do. The capacitors, they last a while, sometimes they explode, sometimes they leak. If you're opening it up anyway, it's always a great thing to do for your Game Gear as well. While it's already open, you may as well just recap it. That's always a good start to anything. You know, if you have a Game Gear or game device, or even a Nomad, where the sound is going out, the color is going out, the screen is going out, it probably just needs to be recapped. One of the first things is this guy back here. This is the Laser Bear Industries Nomad Pack MK2. No longer do you have to use batteries, and no longer do you have to charge them. If you look on top, there is USB-C capabilities. So if you're not playing it or want to make sure that it's all ready to go, You plug it in just like that. Light comes on, it's charging right now. Yes, you can play it like this too, but by all means, you don't need to, because once it's charged, it'll turn on without having to do anything. I'm powering it on even though there's no game inside. Why would I do that? There you go, Super WrestleMania. And again, looking really good on my end. I'll even turn it down a little bit. So, no longer have to do the batteries for this thing. With the charger, it'll work anywhere. Perfect for conventions if I'm gonna show off my new game. Let me say that again while holding this up. Perfect for conventions if I'm showing off my new game and just, you know, I don't wanna bring a TV, don't wanna bring a Genesis or you know, anything like that. I can just bring Stack and Attract. Coming soon officially, but I do sell these a little bit online. There's no manual yet. The game is finished. There's a bug in it, but I can't figure it out. So it doesn't play on clone consoles. However, it does play on legit systems. I am trying to figure that out, where you can play this on a clone console. In the meantime, I make a few of these just to bring to conventions, and I have a couple of them that I sell online. That being the case, I can just pop that out and pop this in, which is nice because it also showcases and proves that this Nomad does play does play homebrew games, plays indie games, which is kind of nice. And there is a lot of new games for the Sega Genesis that are 100% worth checking out. In fact, Earthion's coming soon. Make sure you grab Eartheon, Uza Koshiro. I played a bit of that. It's available on Steam, physical cart, like next year for the Genesis. I'm looking forward to it already. The nice thing about this charger here is it's USB-C, but you can also use the Genesis charger. So your choice. You can charge it with the Genesis thing, or you can charge it with USB-C. You probably have a USB-C handy, but if you want to charge it with the old-fashioned Genesis AC power cord, go for it. There is a screen, let's see. There is a screen upgrade, and I'm trying to find, I can maximize the screen. It's going to auto-correct with the colors and all that, but, you know, with the contrast and all that. Very, very cool, though. This new screen, it's a 640 by 480 IPS LCD screen upgrade. Now, the original Nomad was also an LCD screen, but it was an LCD from 95, right? Literally 30 years ago. And not only that, here, let's pop in another game. One more quick shout out for Stack and Attract, the game that takes place at church, but is not a religious game. You have to impress the ladies by carrying stacks of chairs back after a church meeting. Yeah. I got my flash card in here too, so it works with that too. And this is that Ghostbusters Special Edition that you can play as Winston, just for fun. I'll pop that in for now. There you go, got Winston and a Ghostbusters here. What's nice too is I showcase this a little bit is because of the new LCD, the angle that you hold it, it doesn't have to be like dead on for it to go like weird. See what I'm saying? Like, cause like sometimes it just goes black. Like you have to like look at it at a certain angle. You know, it's like if you're laying down playing it, sometimes you have to like readjust yourself, but don't get that with this one too. So yes, the person next to you on the flight will see what you're playing, but no, that's their fault. They're just jealous. This is also glass now instead of plastic, so appreciate that. Couple of other mods that I think are super, super cool is this now has the ability to play Sega Master System games with a converter. I do not have a converter handy, so I can't showcase that. However, I trust that it works. I do have the converter for the Mega SG, but it still wouldn't fit in there because the Mega SG is just kind of blocky and, you know, not Sega Genesis shaped, right? So now I can play Master System games on this with the converter. And then there's also Sega CD sound. So if you have the EverDrive. If you have the EverDrive that's able to play Sega CD games, you can do that on here now, which I guess maybe you couldn't do before, or maybe you could, but the music was weird about it. Well, it's fixed, so it does that too. And I do not have one of those EverDrives that have the ability to play Sega CDs on this either. So I can't test that out either. What does it say? So Master System capability, a simple wire to the CPU. One of the cartridge pins now has allowed the Nomad to work with SMS carts via the adapter or EverDrive. And then, yeah, Sega CD audio combines the two wires with each capacitor and resistor, etc., etc. Fancy stuff. And it does still have the capability of hooking up to your TV, which I could actually show you right now. So this game's called True Galactic Mission, and I have it hooked up through just an old school RF. Hey, you know what? If RF was good enough for me back in the day when I was growing up, it's good enough for me now. There you go. I know the music just kind of popped on all of a sudden. But there you go. And then on top of that, I could turn that down a little bit, but I'll be all right. I hit start, and it's going to be the same thing. So kind of nice. Like, so if you don't, you know, if you want to play a game and want to hook up to your TV so everyone else is going to watch you, and you want to have the 6-button capability, you can just play it just like right on here. I mean, I'm not going to, Kind of hard to play this one-handed. Here we go. Yeah, fun game here. Woo. So again, huge shout out to Meddle Repairs for the work on this. I'm absolutely ecstatic about it. I forgot how much it was, because it was like last year, and I was just, like, when they quoted me the price, I'm just like, yeah, just whatever it is, let me know and I'll pay it. You know, I just have a Nomad laying around. The Nomad did work, but you know, I could use it. I could use a recap anyway. And while you're there, may as well max out anything you can do to it. So I'm super happy about this. Now I do wish this had the capability to play 32X games. I understand it doesn't. I understand why it doesn't. But wouldn't that be cool if it had that feature too? But I do need to get myself that Master System adapter for this, so I can. So I have a bunch of Master System games I would love to play. There's so many videos about upgrading your Game Boy Advance and your Game Boy and, you know, other things too. But it's like, come on, show some love for Sega, the Nomad. I love it.